Commander Jake Morrison stared at the dead planet through the bridge windows of the USS Horizon. The world below looked like someone had taken a hammer to a beautiful painting. Black craters covered what used to be green lands. The oceans were dark and empty. Not a single light showed on the night side of the planet. "Sir, I'm getting some weird readings," said Lieutenant Ben Carter from the sensor station. "There's something alive down there, deep underground." Jake walked over to look at the screens. The numbers made no sense. Life signs were coming from caves far below the surface, strong life signs. Not just bacteria or simple plants, but complex creatures. "Are you sure about this?" Jake asked. "Yes, sir. Whatever is down there, it's big, and there are a lot of them." Dr. Lisa Parker looked up from her science station. She had been studying this system for 3 months. The planets here were supposed to be empty, dead worlds that nobody cared about. But the readings showed something different. "Commander, I need to go down there," Lisa said. "If there really is life on this planet, we have to know what it is." Jake thought about it. His orders were simple: map the system and move on. But finding life changed everything. Earth needed to know about any alien species they found. Even dead ones. "Prep the shuttle," Jake said. "We're going down." 2 hours later, Jake, Lisa, and 4 security officers were flying through the planet's thin air. The shuttle's lights cut through the darkness as they searched for a way into the underground caves. The surface was worse up close. Melted rock and twisted metal showed where cities used to be. Someone had bombed this world until nothing lived on top. "There," said Sergeant Mike Davis, pointing to a crack in the ground. "That hole goes deep. I can fit the shuttle through it." They flew down into darkness. The cave walls were smooth, like they had been carved by water over millions of years. But these tunnels were too perfect, too organized. Someone had built them. The shuttle's sensors picked up air movement ahead. Good air that people could breathe. Jake felt his heart beat faster. They were about to meet aliens. Real, living aliens. The tunnel opened into a huge underground space. Jake's breath caught in his throat. It was beautiful. Glowing plants covered the walls and ceiling like stars. Clear water ran in streams across the floor. And everywhere there were structures. Buildings made from grown coral and shaped stone. "My God," Lisa whispered. "It's a city." Movement caught Jake's eye. Figures emerged from the buildings. They walked on 2 legs like humans, but their skin was blue and seemed to glow from inside. They were tall and thin, with large eyes that reflected the light from the plants. The aliens stopped when they saw the shuttle. Jake could see fear in their movements. They had probably not seen strangers in a very long time. "Sir, should we go back up and call for backup?" asked Sergeant Davis. "No," Jake said. "They look scared, not dangerous. We're going out there." Jake opened the shuttle door and stepped onto the soft ground. The air smelled like ocean water and growing things. It was warm and humid like a tropical forest back on Earth. One of the aliens moved forward. It was old. Jake could tell. Its blue skin was darker, and it moved carefully like someone who had lived through hard times. When it spoke, the words came out as musical sounds that the shuttle's computer tried to translate. "Welcome, strangers from the sky," the computer said in a flat voice. "I am SideHFY, keeper of the last garden. You have found the Villani." Jake stepped closer, keeping his hands visible and empty. "I am Commander Jake Morrison of Earth. We come in peace." The old alien SideHFY made a sound that might have been laughter, but it was sad laughter. "Peace, we remember peace. Before the burning ships came, before our worlds turned to ash, more Villani came out of the buildings." Jake counted maybe 50, then 100, but it felt wrong. A city this size should hold thousands of people. Where was everyone else? "How many of you are there?" Lisa asked. Cause large eyes grew dim. "We are the last. 10,000 Villani remain alive in all the galaxy. Once we were millions. We built gardens on dead worlds. We made life where there was none. But the hegemony called us criminals. They said we were terrorists for making planets green." Jake felt cold despite the warm air. The hegemony did this. They hunted us across the stars. Every world we touched, they burned. Every city we built, they destroyed. They said the galaxy belonged to them, that we had no right to change their dead rocks into living worlds. Lisa was recording everything with her scanner. Jake could see the excitement in her eyes. These aliens had technology that could bring dead planets to life. Earth needed that knowledge. But more than that, these people needed help. Why didn't you fight back? Jake asked. We are not warriors, SciFi said. We are gardeners. We create life, we do not take it. Even when they killed our children, we could not kill theirs. So we ran and ran until there was nowhere left to run. The old alien looked up at Jake with eyes full of pain. You are new to the galaxy, Earth human. The hegemony does not know about you yet. Leave this place. Forget you found us. Save your own people. Jake looked around at the beautiful underground city, at the glowing plants and clear water, at the gentle aliens who had never hurt anyone. He thought about Earth, struggling with climate change and pollution. These people could help fix everything. But more than that, they deserve to live. No, Jake said. We don't abandon people who need help. That's not who we are. SciFi stared at him for a long moment. Then the alien did something that looked like crying, except the tears glowed softly blue in the dim light. President Rachel Torres sat at the head of the long table in the Global Council chambers. Around her, the most powerful people on Earth argued about the fate of an alien race they had never seen. The debate had been going on for 6 hours, and no one could agree on anything. This is insane. Admiral Charles Beck slammed his hand on the table. We're talking about starting a war with aliens we know nothing about. The hegemony has ships that can destroy planets. We have 12 exploration vessels and a few defense satellites. Dr. Elena Rodriguez shook her head. You're missing the point, Admiral. These Villani can teach us how to fix Earth's climate, how to grow food in deserts, how to clean the oceans. We're dying slowly here, and they have the knowledge to save us. Knowledge we'll never get to use if we're all dead, Admiral Beck shot back. The reports say this hegemony has been wiping out species for thousands of years. What makes you think we can fight them? Economic advisor Henry Walsh pulled up charts on his tablet. The cost of relocating 10,000 aliens would be enormous. Where would we put them? How would we feed them? And if this hegemony comes looking, Earth becomes a target. Is saving one dying species worth risking all of humanity? President Torres listened to the arguments but kept thinking about the video. Message from Commander Morrison. She had watched it 12 times. The old alien SciFi talking about his people, the beautiful underground city. The gentle creatures who had never hurt anyone but were being hunted to extinction. Madam President, said General Frank Collins, I've been reviewing our military capabilities. We're not ready for a space war. Our ships are designed for exploration, not combat. If we take in these aliens and this hegemony comes for them, we'll be fighting with kitchen knives against laser cannons. But Dr. Rodriguez had more information. I've been analyzing the Villani biotechnology data that Morrison sent. This isn't just about terraforming. They have medical knowledge that could cure cancer, fix genetic diseases, extend human life by decades, and their environmental sciences could reverse global warming in years instead of centuries. That's assuming we live long enough to use it, Admiral Beck said. The argument continued, but President Torres noticed that one person had been quiet. Lieutenant Sophie Grant had returned from the Villani world 3 days ago. She had spent 2 weeks living with the aliens, learning their language and culture. Her report was different from the others. Lieutenant Grant, President Torres said, cutting through the noise. You lived with them. What do you think we should do? Sophie stood up. She was young, maybe 25, but she had seen things that aged her. Madam President, I've read all the strategic reports. I know the risks, but I also know something the numbers don't show. She activated a holographic display. Images of Villani children appeared in the air above the table. They were playing games, laughing, learning from their elders. But there were so few of them. The Villani aren't just aliens with useful technology, Sophie said. They're people. They have families, dreams, art, music. I watched a Villani mother sing her baby to sleep with a song about worlds covered in flowers. I saw old Villani teaching young ones how to make plants grow in dead soil. She switched to another image. Villani working together to tend their underground gardens. They don't understand greed or hatred. When I told them about human wars, they couldn't believe that we fight over resources when we could just make more. They don't even have words for murder or theft. Admiral Beck frowned. That just proves they're not prepared for the real galaxy. Peaceful species don't survive when the wolves come hunting. Maybe that's been the problem, Sophie said. Maybe the galaxy needs species that choose to be peaceful. The Villani have survived this long, not because they're weak, but because they're smart. They know things about biology and chemistry that our best scientists can't understand. She pulled up another display. They've been studying the hegemony for 50 years. They know their ship designs, their weapons, their tactics. They know which hegemony species are starting to question their leaders. They know about rebel groups and resistance movements. This got everyone's attention. Intelligence about the enemy was always valuable. The Villani also told me something else, Sophie continued. The hegemony isn't expanding because they want to. They're expanding because they have to. Their technology is failing. Their worlds are dying. They need what other species have, but they're too proud to ask for help. So they take it. Dr. Rodriguez leaned forward. What do you mean their technology is failing? The Villani say the hegemony species stopped evolving millions of years ago. They use machines for everything instead of working with biology. Their planets are sterile. Their people are getting sick. They need the life sciences that species like the Villani developed, but they destroy anyone who won't give it to them freely. Henry Walsh looked at his economic projections again. If the hegemony is that desperate, they'll never stop expanding. Earth will be a target eventually anyway. That's right, Sophie said. The question isn't whether we'll have to fight them. The question is whether we'll fight them alone or with allies. President Torres felt the weight of the decision pressing down on her. Every choice had risks. Every path could lead to disaster, but doing nothing was also a choice. What did the Villani say when you told them we might not be able to help? She asked Sophie. Sophie's voice got quiet. SideHFY said they understood. He said humanity was young and had to think of their own survival first, but then he gave me this. She held up a small device that glowed with soft blue light. It's a seed bank. Genetic information for 1,000 plant species that can grow. On worlds like Earth, he said, even if we couldn't save the Villani, maybe we could save their knowledge. He wanted human children to see flowers that came from alien worlds. The room fell silent. President Torres looked around the table at her advisors. She saw fear in their eyes, but also something else, hope, the possibility that humanity could be something more than just another species struggling to survive. I've made my decision, President Torres said. We're not going to abandon the Villani. But we're also not going to be stupid about it. Admiral Beck, I want every ship we have refitted for combat. Dr. Rodriguez, work with the Villani to learn everything they can teach us. General Collins, start training our people for a war we hope we never have to fight. She stood up and everyone else stood with her. If this hegemony wants to hunt peaceful species to extinction, they're going to learn something about humanity. We don't abandon family. And we sure as hell don't like bullies. Admiral Beck shook his head but saluted anyway. Yes, Madame President, God help us all. God helps those who help themselves, Admiral, President Torres replied. And those who help others. Colonel Ryan Hayes checked his watch for the 10th time in 5 minutes. The rescue fleet hung in space just outside the Kepler 442 system, waiting for the signal to move. 20 cargo ships, modified with every bit of defensive technology Earth could build in 3 months. It wasn't much, but it would have to be enough. Colonel, we're getting reports from the scout ships, said Captain Rose Washington from the bridge of the lead cargo vessel, Hegemony patrol ships are increasing their sweeps. 3 ships every 6 hours instead of 2, Ryan frowned. That meant the enemy was getting suspicious about something. Maybe they had detected the human ships at the edge of the system. Maybe they just knew something was different. Either way, time was running out. How long until Chief Turner finishes the hull? Modifications? Ryan asked. He says another 4 hours, sir. The Villani biotechnology is tricky to work with. It's alive, so it has to be kept happy while we integrate it with our systems. Chief Engineer Paul Turner had been working with Villani technicians for weeks, learning how to blend their living technology with human machines. The results were strange, but effective. Ships with hulls that could change color and temperature to match empty space. Engines that ran so quietly they barely showed up on sensors, but the modifications took time, and time was something they didn't have much of. Ryan walked through the cargo bay, where Villani engineers were helping human technicians prepare the rescue ships. The aliens worked with their hands inside tanks of what looked like glowing soup. When they pulled their hands out, the liquid followed them, wrapping around ship components like living metal. How does it work? Ryan asked Iluna, one of the Villani engineers. We grow the metal instead of forging it, the alien explained through. A translator, metal that lives can learn. It remembers what we teach it. We teach it to hide from the hunting ships. Ryan watched as the living metal covered a human engine. The metal learned the engine's heat pattern, then started producing false signals to confuse enemy sensors. It was like the ship was wearing camouflage that could think for itself. Dr. Amy Foster came up beside him, her medical bag in hand. Colonel, I need to talk to you about the Villani we're rescuing. About half of them are sick from radiation poisoning. They might not survive the trip to Earth without treatment. What kind of treatment? Amy looked uncertain. That's the problem. Human medicine doesn't work on them, and they don't have enough medical supplies left. But I've been working with their healers, and they showed me something incredible. She LED Ryan to a medical station where a Villani healer was working with what looked like a small glowing plant. The healer placed the plant on a piece of damaged metal, and Ryan watched as the metal slowly repaired itself. They don't just grow technology, Amy explained. They grow medicine. Living medicine that can adapt to different injuries and diseases? But it takes time to grow, and we need it now. Ryan understood the problem. They could save the Villani from the hegemony, but some might die anyway from their injuries. Unless they could find a way to combine human and Villani medical knowledge quickly. Work with them, Ryan said. Figure out what you can? We're not leaving anyone behind if we can help it. A communication alert interrupted them. Colonel Hayes. To the bridge, came Captain Washington's voice. We have a problem. Ryan rushed to the bridge to find Washington staring at the tactical display. 3 red dots were moving through the Kepler 442 system, heading toward the Villani world. Hegemony heavy cruisers, Washington said. They're not on patrol. They're moving with purpose, straight toward the planet. Ryan felt his stomach drop. How long until they reach the Villani? 8 hours, sir. That was 4 hours before the rescue fleet would be ready. Ryan had to make a choice. Go in now with unprepared ships, or wait and hope the Villani could hide from another hegemony search. Get me Commander Morrison, Ryan ordered. Jake Morrison's face appeared on the communication screen. He was on the planet's surface, helping coordinate the evacuation from the underground city. Jake, we've got hegemony ships incoming. Heavy cruisers. How's the evacuation going? Morrison looked tired. We've got about 3,000 Villani loaded onto shuttles, but that's less than half. The rest are too sick to move, or they're operating critical systems that keep this place alive. If we leave now, we abandon 6,000 people. Ryan closed his eyes. This was exactly the situation he had hoped to avoid. Jake, those cruisers will be there in 8 hours. Our ships aren't ready for a fight. Then we better get ready fast, Morrison said. Because I'm not leaving without all of them. Ryan made his decision. All ships, prepare for immediate departure. We're going in early, Chief Turner's voice crackled over the com. Sir, the biomodifications aren't complete. Half the ships are still vulnerable to hegemony sensors. Then we'll have to be smarter than them, Ryan said. He turned to the navigation officer. Plot a course through the asteroid field on the system's edge. We'll use the rocks for cover. The rescue fleet moved toward the Kepler 442 system like ghosts in the night. The ships with completed biomodifications led the way, their living hulls making them almost invisible. The other ships followed in their sensor shadows, hoping the hegemony wouldn't notice them. It almost worked. The hegemony cruisers detected something wrong when the rescue fleet was still 2 hours away from the planet. Ryan watched on the tactical display as the alien ships changed course, moving to intercept. They know we're here, Captain Washington said. But they don't know what we are, Ryan replied. All ships implement Morrison Protocol. It was a desperate plan that Morrison had suggested during the planning phase. Instead of running or fighting, the human ships would split up and act like they were something else. Some ships would mimic asteroid movements. Others would pretend to be space debris. The fastest ships would run in different directions, making the hegemony think there were more of them. The plan worked better than Ryan had hoped. The hegemony cruisers couldn't track all the false signals at once. They split up to investigate, dividing their strength, but 2 cruisers kept heading toward the planet. Morrison, you've got company coming, Ryan called down to the surface. 2 heavy cruisers, maybe 4 hours out. Understood, Morrison replied. We'll be ready. Ryan didn't know what Morrison meant by ready, but he had learned to trust the commander's instincts. He focused on his own problems. The 3rd hegemony cruiser was getting closer to his group of cargo ships, and their biocamouflage wouldn't fool close-range scans. Turner, please tell me you have something for us, Ryan called to the engineering deck. Working on it, sir. The Villani showed me something interesting. If we can't hide from their sensors, maybe we can make their sensors lie to them. Turner activated a device that looked like a cross between a computer and a coral reef. The biotechnology spread through the ship's systems, and suddenly the cargo vessel appeared on sensors as a hegemony ship. Son of a gun, Ryan breathed. It's working. The hegemony cruiser passed right by them, its sensors reading the human ship as one of their own patrol vessels. But the deception wouldn't last long. As soon as they tried to communicate, the trick would be discovered. Ryan ordered the fleet to maximum speed toward the planet. They had maybe an hour before the hegemony figured out they had been fooled on the planet's surface. Morrison was preparing his own surprise for the incoming cruisers. The Villani had shown him how their underground cities worked, how the living technology could be convinced to do more than just hide. When the hegemony ships entered orbit and began scanning for the Villani city, the planet itself fought back. Biotechnology that had been growing for decades suddenly activated, sending false sensor readings and energy pulses that confused the alien ships. It was like the planet had come alive to protect its children. The distraction gave Morrison the time he needed. The last shuttles lifted off from the underground city, carrying the remaining Villani to safety. As the rescue fleet arrived, Morrison's voice came over the comm with 5 words that made Ryan smile. All Villani accounted for, Colonel. Dr. Kevin Brooks stood in what used to be a bare lunar crater, but now looked like something from a dream. Villani bioengineers had been working for 6 months, and the transformation was incredible. Living domes stretched across the crater floor, their walls pulsing gently with bioluminescent patterns. Gardens grew in the low gravity with plants that had never existed on Earth. The atmospheric processors are working better than we expected, said Davin, the Villani environmental artist. Working with Kevin's team. The dome is producing oxygen at twice the rate of our old facilities. Kevin watched as Villani children played in pools of water that sparkled with tiny organisms. The kids could breathe the air inside the domes just like humans could. It was a small miracle that happened every day now, but not everything was going smoothly. Dr. Marie Young walked through the settlement with a group of Villani who had been having trouble sleeping. They jumped at sudden noises and often stared at the dome ceiling as if expecting bombs to fall through it. They have what we would call post-traumatic stress, Marie explained to Kevin. 50 years of being hunted has left deep scars. Some of them can't believe they're really safe. The worst case was Velsu, an older Villani who had survived the destruction of 3 different worlds. He spent most of his time in the deepest part of the settlement, as far from the surface as possible. When human children visited the dome, he would hide until they left. He thinks humans will get tired of protecting them and hand them over to the hegemony, Marie said. He's seen species make promises before, then break them when things got dangerous. Kevin understood the fear, but it still hurt to see. Earth had risked everything to save the Villani, and some of them couldn't trust their rescuers. The trust issues weren't just on the Villani side. Senator William Kane had been giving speeches on Earth about the alien problem. He argued that the Villani settlement was taking resources that should go to human colonies. Worse, he claimed that helping the aliens had made Earth a target for the hegemony. "We're harboring fugitives," Kane said in his latest broadcast. "Criminals who destroyed planets and made the galaxy's most powerful alliance angry. How long before they come for us? How long before Earth burns like the Villani worlds did?" Some humans believed him. Protests had started in major cities, with people demanding that the aliens be relocated away from Earth. A few extremists had even tried to attack supply ships heading to the lunar settlement. President Torres had to assign security teams to protect the Villani, which made them feel even more like prisoners than guests. But then something happened that changed everything. Farmer Joe Miller had been working with Villani biotechnicians to restore damaged farmland in Iowa. The area had been poisoned by chemical spills decades ago, and nothing would grow there. Human scientists had tried for years to clean the soil with no success. Kelu-na, the Villani engineer, suggested a different approach. Instead of trying to remove the poison, they would teach the soil to eat it. "We grow organisms that think chemicals are food," Keluna explained. "They eat the poison and turn it into nutrients for plants." Joe was skeptical, but he was also desperate. His family farm had been worthless for 20 years. He had nothing to lose by trying alien science. The Villani grew what looked like purple moss in special tanks. When they spread it on the poisoned ground, the moss began breaking down the chemicals. Immediately, within a week, the soil was clean enough to plant crops. Within a month, Joe was harvesting vegetables that grew bigger and healthier than anything he had seen before. The story spread across Earth's communication networks. Pictures of Joe's impossible garden appeared on every news feed. Other farmers began asking for help with their own damaged lands, but the real breakthrough came when Dr. Elena Rodriguez was studying Villani medical techniques. The Villani healer SideHFY was treating a human patient who had been injured in a construction accident. The man's spine was damaged, and human doctors said he would never walk again. But SideHFY grew tiny organisms that could repair nerve tissue. "Your medicine tries to fight the body's natural healing," SideHFY explained to Elena. "Our medicine helps the body remember how to fix itself." Elena watched as the microscopic organisms spread through the patient's spine, rebuilding damaged connections between nerves. It was like watching the human body relearn how to work properly. "Can this technique work on other injuries?" Elena asked. "Any injury," SideHFY said. "Cancer, genetic diseases, aging, damage. The body knows how to heal everything. It just forgets. How sometimes we remind it." Elena realized what this meant. The Villani weren't just offering technology to fix Earth's environment. They had medical knowledge that could eliminate most human diseases. Cancer could become as treatable as a broken bone. Genetic disorders could be corrected before birth. People could live for centuries instead of decades, but intelligence. Officer Lavra Bell was discovering something even more important. Lavra had been studying Villani historical records, trying to understand how the hegemony operated. What she found changed her understanding of the entire galactic situation. "The hegemony isn't just conquering random species," Lavra explained to a meeting of Earth's top officials. "They're targeting specific types of civilizations, peaceful species with advanced biotechnology, creative species that develop new ways of thinking, any species that might challenge their control over the galaxy." She displayed a map showing Hegemony expansion over the last 1,000 years. The pattern was clear. They had systematically eliminated every species that had something unique to offer the galaxy. The Villani were just the latest target, Lavra continued, but they weren't the only ones. The hegemony has destroyed over 200 different species. Each one had knowledge or abilities that made them special. President Torres studied the map. Are you saying they're going to target humanity next? They already are, Lavara said. According to Villani intelligence, the hegemony has been watching human space for 5 years. They know about our rapid technological development. They know we're unpredictable and creative. They know we form alliances with other species instead of conquering them. Lavra pulled up another display showing hegemony internal communications that the Villani had intercepted. They're calling us a Category 7 threat, Lavra said. That's the highest level on their scale. They used the same classification for the Villani right before they started the extermination campaigns. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed this information. So whether we help the Villani or not, we're already on their list. Admiral Beck sighed. That's right, Lavra confirmed. The only question is whether we face them alone or with allies who understand how they operate. Dr. Elena Rodriguez spoke up. The Villani have been studying the hegemony for 50 years. They know their weaknesses. They know which member species are starting to rebel. They know about resistance groups inside hegemony space. More importantly, Lavra added, they know that the hegemony is desperate. Their rigid control system is starting to break down. Several member species are questioning orders. Their technology is falling behind because they destroyed all the innovative species. Senator Kane's voice came over the communication system. He had been listening from Earth. You're talking about starting a war with aliens who have been conquering the galaxy for thousands of years. What makes you think we can win? President Torres looked at the images of the Villani settlement on Luna. She thought about Joe Miller's Impossible Garden, about the paralyzed man who was learning to walk again, about children from 2 different worlds playing together in pools of starlight. Because we're not fighting alone, she said, and because sometimes the galaxy needs someone to stand up to the bullies. The warning came at 03:00 Earth time. Long-range sensors detected massive energy signatures at the edge of the solar system. Ships were coming, big ships. More ships than humanity had ever seen in one place. Admiral Charles Beck stood in the command center, watching as red dots filled the tactical display. Each dot represented a hegemony warship the size of a city block. There were over 200 of them. Sir, we're receiving a transmission, said Communications Officer Tony Clark. It's coming from the lead ship. Put it through, Beck ordered. The main screen flickered, then showed an alien face that made everyone in the command center step back. The creature looked like someone had crossed a shark with a spider. 8 black eyes arranged around a mouth, full of teeth. Scarred metal plates covered parts of its head where flesh used to be. I am War Master Krostel of the Hegemony 3rd Fleet, the alien said in perfect English. You will surrender the Villani criminals within 72 hours, or your species will be classified as accomplices to terrorism. Beck found his voice. This is Admiral Charles Beck of Earth Defense Command. The Villani are under our protection. They have committed no crimes. Krostel made a sound that might have been laughter, but it sounded like metal scraping against stone. Protection? Amusing, your species has existed in space for less than a century. The hegemony has ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. What protection can you offer against the inevitable? The protection of people who don't abandon their friends, Beck replied. Friends. Krostel's 8 eyes blinked in sequence. The Villani have poisoned your thinking. They are ecological terrorists who destroy natural planetary systems by introducing invasive life forms. They have been found guilty of crimes against galactic stability. Beck thought about the gardens on Luna, about the healing centers where Villani and human doctors work together. We've seen their work. They create life, they don't destroy it. They create chaos, Krostel said. uncontrolled biological systems that spread beyond their intended boundaries. Dead worlds serve important purposes in galactic ecology. The Villani corrupt that balance. The transmission switched to show images of hegemony worlds, sterile landscapes of metal and rock, cities that look like machines. No trees, no animals, no life except for the hegemony species themselves. This is order, Crosstell continued. This is stability. The galaxy belongs to those strong enough to maintain control, not to gardeners who plant weeds in carefully managed systems. Beck realized he was looking at the real difference between humanity and the hegemony. Where humans saw beauty in the Villani gardens, the hegemony saw contamination. Where humans saw cooperation, the hegemony saw weakness. The Villani stay under our protection, Beck said firmly. Crosstell's expression didn't change, but something cold entered the alien's voice. Then you have chosen to share their fate. 72 hours, Admiral. Use that time to reconsider. The transmission ended. Leaving the command center in tense silence. Captain Steve Adams had been preparing for this moment since the rescue mission. As the commander of Earth's first true warship, the USS Freedom, he knew his ship would be humanity's best chance in a fight. But even the Freedom was tiny compared to a hegemony heavy cruiser. Sir, I'm receiving new intelligence from the Villani, Adams reported to Admiral Beck. They've been analyzing the hegemony fleet composition? Elder SideHFY appeared on a secondary screen, speaking from the Luna settlement. The old Villani looked even more fragile than usual, but his voice was steady. The fleet formation tells us much about hegemony intentions, SideHFY said. They have brought pacification cruisers, not exploration vessels. They do not plan to negotiate. They plan to demonstrate what happens to species who defy them. Lieutenant Sophie Grant, now serving as liaison between Earth and the Villani, translated additional information. The Villani intelligence network has identified specific weaknesses in the hegemony fleet. Most of their ships are old designs, built for intimidation rather than actual combat. They rely on fear more than firepower. What kind of weaknesses? Adams asked. ZePHK consulted data displayed on organic screens that grew from the walls of his chamber. Hegemony doctrine assumes enemy surrender after initial demonstration. Their ships have powerful forward weapons but weak defensive systems. They expect battles to end quickly. They've never fought someone who refused to give up, Sophie added. Admiral Beck studied the tactical information. It wasn't encouraging. Even with weaknesses, the hegemony fleet could destroy Earth's defenses in hours. But maybe they didn't have to win the battle. Maybe they just had to survive it long enough to change the galaxy's mind about what was possible. The first negotiations took place on neutral ground. A space station at the edge of the asteroid belt, hastily converted into a meeting facility. Captain Adams led the human delegation. Accompanied by Sophie Grant and Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the hegemony delegation was led by Crosstell himself, along with two other aliens that made the War Master look friendly. One was covered in crystalline armor that reflected light like broken glass. The other was so heavily modified with cybernetic implants that it was hard to tell what species it had originally been. You have had time to consider, Crosstell said. Without preamble, where are the Villani? Safe, Adams replied, and staying that way. The crystal-armored alien spoke for the first time. Its voice sounded like wind chimes in a hurricane. I am Intelligence Coordinator Vexmore. We have detected Villani biotechnology integrated into your systems. Your species is already contaminated beyond salvage. Dr. Rodriguez leaned forward. Contaminated? The Villani have helped us cure diseases, restore damaged environments, and develop clean energy sources. How is that contamination? Because it is uncontrolled, Vexmore replied. Biological systems evolve. They adapt. They spread beyond their intended parameters. What seems helpful today becomes a galactic plague tomorrow. Sophie spoke up. The Villani have been using biotechnology for millions of years. Where are these plagues you're worried about? The cyborg alien answered with a voice like grinding gears. Pacification, Commander Grokval, Historical Division. 17 documented cases of Villani biotechnology escaping containment. 14 systems required sterilization to prevent spread. The risk is unacceptable. Adams realized they were talking about two completely different philosophies. The hegemony saw biological diversity as dangerous chaos that needed to be controlled. Humanity saw it as beautiful complexity that should be encouraged. What if we could prove the technology is safe? Dr. Rodriguez asked. What if we could show you controlled applications that don't spread beyond their intended use? Cross tells. 8 eyes focused on her, irrelevant. The Villani have been judged guilty by proper galactic authority. The sentence has been passed. Your species can choose to be accomplices or witnesses. There's a third choice, Adams said. We can choose to be protectors. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Crosstell slowly stood up, his mechanical parts whirring as he moved. Captain Adams, the War Master said, your species has impressive courage. But courage without wisdom is just another word for suicide. Look at what we offer. The room's displays activated, showing images of hegemony member species, comfortable cities, advanced technology, citizens who wanted for nothing as long as they followed the rules. Join the hegemony, Crosstell continued. Accept galactic law. Turn over the criminals, and humanity will be welcomed as a junior partner in galactic civilization. You will have peace, prosperity, and protection. Adams looked at the images. They were impressive, but something was missing. No diversity. Number. Chaos, no unexpected beauty. Everything was planned, controlled, and identical. What about freedom? Adams asked. Freedom is overrated, Vexmore said. Freedom leads to conflict. Conflict leads to suffering. Better to have order. Sophie thought. About the Villani children playing in the Luna Gardens. About human and alien scientists working together to solve problems nobody had ever faced before. About the strange new music that combined human instruments with Villani bioacoustics. No, she said quietly. Better to have choice. Crosstell's expression hardened. Then you have made yours. When your cities burn and your people beg for mercy, remember that we offered peace. The War Master and his delegation left without another word. Adams contacted Admiral Beck immediately. Sir, negotiations have failed. The hegemony won't accept any compromise. They want total surrender or total destruction. Beck's voice came back tired but determined. Understood, Captain. All ships are to take defensive positions. We're going to show the galaxy what happens when bullies pick on the wrong species. In the Luna settlement, Elder Zefka gathered the Villani survivors. Many wanted to surrender themselves to save humanity from destruction. But the humans had made their choice, and now the Villani had to make theirs. For 50 years we have run from the hunters, Zefka told his people. We have hidden in caves and whispered our songs in darkness. But the humans did not hide when they found us. They stood in the light and said, these people are under our protection. The old Villani looked at the mixed crowd of humans and aliens who had come to hear his words. Today, we stop running. Today, we stand with those who stood with us. Today, we fight not just for survival, but for the right of all species to choose their own path among the stars.